Imagine walking through the streets of Paris in the mid-1920s. The air is filled with the distant clatter of horse-drawn carriages, the hiss of early automobiles, and the chatter of pedestrians bustling along the cobblestones. Overhead, the Eiffel Tower rises majestically, its iron latticework cutting into the morning mist, a symbol of France's pride and industrial ingenuity. It is a monument admired by millions, yet in the hands of one extraordinarily audacious man, it became the centerpiece of a scam so bold that it defies belief to this day. Victor Lustig was born in 1890 in Austria-Hungary, a man whose early life would shape him into one of the most legendary con artists the world has ever known. From a young age, Lustig demonstrated an uncanny ability to read people, to charm, and to manipulate those around him. His childhood was not remarkable in wealth or privilege, yet he possessed a mind honed to the nuances of human behavior. By his teenage years, he was already running small schemes, observing how people reacted under pressure, how trust could be earned and then exploited. Every gesture, every glance, every word he uttered became a tool in his growing arsenal of deception. He traveled extensively across Europe, never staying long enough in one city to be noticed. He learned the art of persuasion, of gaining confidence with mere appearances, and of creating situations where the marks themselves would unknowingly aid in their own exploitation. His methods were subtle, elegant, and refined. He did not rely on force, intimidation, or crude trickery. He relied on psychology, on perception, and on the willingness of people to believe what they wanted to be true. By the 1920s, Lustig had already executed several successful scams. He had fabricated bonds, manipulated lotteries, and orchestrated schemes that made millions of francs disappear. Yet nothing would prepare the world for the scam he was about to perpetrate in Paris. The target was audacious, the Eiffel Tower itself. Paris in the 1920s was a city rebounding from the devastation of the First World War. The economy was slowly recovering, industries were rebuilding, and the city buzzed with energy and ambition. Yet there were whispers of discontent regarding some of its monuments, and the Eiffel Tower, though celebrated by some, was criticized by others for being costly to maintain and aesthetically displeasing. The government faced the burden of upkeep, and scrap metal prices were steadily climbing, creating an environment ripe for exploitation by a cunning mind. Victor Lustig recognized an opportunity that few others could have imagined. He meticulously planned his approach, understanding that the success of such a con would depend on precision, authenticity, and psychological manipulation. He decided that his persona must be one of absolute authority, someone who could not be questioned and whose presence would command respect. He rented an office in central Paris, furnishing it with elegance and care, enough to convey credibility but not so much as to arouse suspicion. He acquired official-looking stationery, stamped with seals that suggested government endorsement. Letters, documents, and telegrams were crafted with meticulous attention to detail. Every aspect of the plan was designed to reinforce trust, to create urgency, and to exploit the natural desire of businessmen to secure rare opportunities. His targets were scrap dealers with the means and ambition to purchase large amounts of metal. They were men accustomed to evaluating offers, yet even the most skeptical were vulnerable to the careful layering of evidence and authority that Lustig presented. He understood that people are often swayed not by logic but by the appearance of legitimacy and the fear of missing out on an exclusive opportunity. The first meeting took place in his rented office. Lustig greeted his visitor with impeccable politeness, exuding confidence and authority. He presented himself as a high-ranking official tasked with the discreet sale of the Eiffel Tower, claiming the government wished to dismantle it and sell the metal to raise funds. The documents he produced were convincing, stamped, signed, and detailed with exacting care. He emphasized urgency. Only one buyer will be approved, he explained, and the transaction must occur immediately to prevent public controversy. Delay could result in losing the opportunity entirely. The scrap dealer, impressed and intrigued, was persuaded to make a deposit. Victor Lustig collected the money and vanished before the full payment could be made, leaving the dealer bewildered but unwilling to pursue legal action immediately due to embarrassment and disbelief. Emboldened by his initial success, Lustig orchestrated a second sale. This time, he targeted a different dealer, employing the lessons he had learned from the first transaction. He refined his approach, enhancing the believability of his documents and further emphasizing the urgency and exclusivity of the offer. Once again, he secured a substantial sum, walking away before any suspicion could solidify into action. The victims were left shocked and humiliated. Newspapers eventually picked up the story, reporting with a mixture of astonishment and disbelief. How could a man have attempted to sell the Eiffel Tower not once, but twice? The public was fascinated, and Lustig's audacity elevated him from mere criminal to legend. Victor Lustig's audacity did not end with the Eiffel Tower. He continued to operate across Europe and later in the United States, executing scams that involved counterfeit money, fake bonds, and other elaborate schemes. His genius lay not in sheer malice, but in his ability to anticipate human behavior, to manipulate trust, and to exploit the natural desire for profit. The psychological principles behind Lustig's con were as relevant then as they are now. He leveraged authority, urgency, and exclusivity, knowing that these elements would override skepticism. He understood that people are often guided more by emotion than by logic, and he exploited this understanding to the fullest. Each interaction, each document, each carefully constructed scenario served to build a narrative in the minds of his targets. They were not simply tricked, they were led into believing a story that was plausible, compelling, and carefully tailored to their desires and expectations. The meticulousness of Lustig's work meant that even well-informed businessmen could be deceived, and often were. The aftermath of the Eiffel Tower scam cemented Lustig's reputation. He evaded authorities, moved to new cities, and continued his life of cons with remarkable ease. Stories of his exploits spread, inspiring awe and incredulity. His ability to operate in multiple countries, exploiting different social and economic environments, speaks to a combination of intelligence, observation, and relentless ambition. Yet beyond the cleverness, the scam also offers lessons. It demonstrates the power of perception over reality, the vulnerability of human trust, and the ways in which greed and desire can cloud judgment. Even a man who should have known better, accustomed to evaluating investments, could fall prey to an elegant deception when it was presented convincingly. Victor Lustig's story reminds us that audacity and intelligence, when combined with careful planning, can achieve results that defy conventional expectations. His scams were non-violent, yet the impact on those deceived was profound: embarrassment, financial loss, and a lingering sense of disbelief. As we reflect on this story nearly a century later, we recognize the timeless nature of human susceptibility to fraud. The techniques Lustig used, the appearance of authority, the creation of urgency, the selective presentation of evidence, are mirrored in modern scams. From online investment schemes to phishing attempts, the principles remain the same. The Eiffel Tower scam, remarkable in its audacity and execution, stands as a testament to the skill of one man and the vulnerabilities inherent in human nature. It is a story of cleverness, of risk, and of the thin line between audacity and criminality. Victor Lustig's legacy, though rooted in deception, offers insight into psychology, strategy, and the nature of trust. The narrative of a man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice and walked away unscathed continues to fascinate historians, psychologists, and the general public alike. Through this tale, we see that scams are rarely about violence, they are about observation, calculation, and an understanding of human behavior. Lustig's brilliance was in his ability to manipulate not just situations, but the very perceptions of those around him. Even today, the story serves as both caution and curiosity, a reminder that ingenuity can be used for both creation and deception. The Eiffel Tower, a monument meant to inspire awe and pride, became the centerpiece of a narrative that continues to captivate nearly a century later. The lessons extend beyond history. In our modern world of complex financial systems and digital interactions, the same principles apply. Authority, urgency, and social proof remain powerful tools of persuasion. The same psychological levers Lustig pulled in 1925 can still be found in scams worldwide. Understanding this story is not merely about marveling at audacity, it is about recognizing patterns, questioning apparent authority, and being cautious in situations that seem too good to be true. Lustig's life, his scams, and the reactions they provoked, offer insights that remain deeply relevant. Even as we admire his cleverness, we also see the human cost: trust betrayed, money lost, and confidence shaken. The blend of admiration and incredulity is what makes Victor Lustig's story endure. So, as you reflect on this tale, remember the audacity it took to attempt the impossible, the precision it took to deceive, and the vulnerability that exists whenever perception can be manipulated. History teaches through stories, and few are as compelling as the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice and vanished into legend.